See, are you really going to leave Jiang Xinyue and go abroad? In a quiet coffee shop, Huasai put down his spoon and looked at his surprised friend across from him, his tone light. She and I are already divorced. Divorced? Caught off guard by such explosive news, his friend Song Haochen was shocked, then immediately indignant on his behalf. Jiang Xinyue actually agreed? You've been so good to her these past 3 years. Even a stone would have been warm by now, right? Does she really have no feelings for you at all? Huasai smiled, a glint flashing in his eyes. Actually, he didn't know if she had agreed or not. After all, half a month ago, when he gave her the divorce agreement, she signed it while on the phone and left in a hurry without even listening to him, and hadn't asked about it since. Now, in just another half a month, he would get the divorce certificate and be free. Just as he was about to speak, a gentle female voice came from behind them. Are you done chatting? The two men turned around at the same time and saw Jiang Xinyue walking towards them in a black skirt suit, her long legs striding. Song Haochen was still immersed in his earlier anger and was about to step forward and ask for clarification. Jiang Xinyue, see, you just said he and you D. What are you doing here? Huasai reassuringly patted Song Haochen's hand, shook his head at him, and interrupted the conversation at the right moment. I saw the weather forecast, said it might rain later, so I can't pick you up on the way. Huasai then smiled, said goodbye to Song Haochen, and got up to take his bag and leave with her. On the way back, the rain pattered, but the car was silent. Facing the husband she had married by chance all those years ago, Jiang Xinyue's thin lips twitched slightly, trying to find something to talk about, but then she remembered that she hadn't been home for half a month. After a long silence, she finally seemed to remember something and spoke. See, what was that document you asked me to sign half a month ago? She's only asking about it after all this time? Right? She's been busy with Shan Xiujin. How could she care about these small matters? Huasai twitched his lips, and just as he was about to speak, Jiang Xinyue's phone rang again. XINU, I'm drunk. My head hurts so much. Can you come pick me up? Listening to the slightly coquettish tone on the other end, the slender knuckles of Jiang Xinyue's hand gripping the steering wheel turned slightly white, and her expression suddenly darkened. Shen Xiujin, I've told you many times, I'm already married. There's a moment of silence on the other end before he said, So what if you're married? I was supposed to be the groom at that wedding back then. This carefree tone enraged Jiang Xinyue. In the 3 years of their marriage, Huasai had only ever seen her cold and self-possessed, and this was the first time he had seen her lose control. She slammed on the brakes, and the car screeched loudly on the ground. So are you coming or not? The other end of the phone suddenly fell silent. After a moment, the voice on the other end became a little choked up. Sorry, I won't bother you again in the future. The call ended quickly, but Jiang Xinyue's expression did not improve. On the contrary, it became even darker. She tapped her fingers on the steering wheel, and after a long while, she finally gave in completely and typed a few words as if resigning herself to fate. Send me the address. Seeing the address sent from the other end, she turned her head with a look of apology. Huasai knew what she was going to say and spoke first. You have something to take care of. Go ahead. I'll take a taxi home. Looking at him opening the car door and holding up an umbrella, Jiang Xinyue finally felt a little guilty and said softly, I'll come back and keep you company when I'm done. Huasai nodded. He stood in the rain, watching her drive away, his eyes filled with complex emotions. This was the 7th year he had been in love with Jiang Xinyue. He still remembered the scene when he first fell in love with her at first sight in the dance studio. She wore her dancing dress, swaying gracefully, single-handedly becoming the champion of the provincial dance competition, a flag bearer who captivated the entire audience. Her ardent fans beside her were screaming, explaining her to the classmates who had just arrived. Jiang Xinyue of the computer science department, a prominent figure at a university from the Jiang family of Jingbei. It was just a pity that this campus belle only had eyes for Shen Xiujin, her childhood sweetheart, whom she had dated for many years. She would spend lavishly for Shen Xiujin, booking the entire amusement park to prepare a surprise, just to celebrate his birthday. She would swallow her pride and beg for reconciliation in front of the whole school, just because someone confessed to her, and Shen Xiujin, being petty, deliberately blacklisted her. She would wait in the snow until her hands were frostbitten Even if Shun Xiujin stood her up to play basketball with his roommates, she still wouldn't complain. For 4 years in college, Huasai heard countless romantic anecdotes about Jiang Xinyue and Shun Xiujin. He always thought that he would be like an NPC in a romance novel, witnessing their happy ending. Until 2 years ago, Jiang Xinyue couldn't wait to marry Shun Xiujin as soon as she graduated. He didn't receive an invitation, but he attended that wedding of the century as a classmate. As it turned out, the wedding had already started, but Shun Xiujin still hadn't appeared. Jiang Xinyue went crazy, making 99 phone calls, only to receive a message from Shun Xiujin saying that he didn't want to get married so early and had already gone abroad. Jiang Xinyue's patience finally ran out that day. She didn't indulge his unreasonable behavior anymore and directly picked up the microphone. Today, I, Jiang Xinyue, have decided to change the groom. Is there any single man who is interested? Huasai, who was usually silent and inconspicuous, felt his heart pounding at that moment. He knew too many people liked Jiang Xinyue, so the moment she finished speaking, he immediately stood up. That day, he put on that ill-fitting suit and married the person who couldn't even remember his name. For the next 3 years, the couple treated each other with courtesy, and everything was peaceful. Until a little over a month ago, Shun Xiujin returned to the country. Huasai watched Jiang Xinyue, who was resisting on one hand, but couldn't help but approach him on the other, and knew that this big dream of his was over. He should return this position to its rightful owner, fulfill her devoted love, and completely liberate himself. In the pouring rain, Huasai sent Jiang Xinyue a message. The file you asked about is in the glove compartment of your passenger seat. Open it if you want to know what it is. It wasn't until half an hour later, after he had arrived home, that Jiang Xinyue finally replied with one sentence. No need. What you made me sign will naturally not be harmful to me. That meant she wasn't going to look. Yes, she was in a hurry to pick up the drunk Shun Xiujin. So how could she have time to look? Even though it was right there within her reach. The rain fell all day and didn't stop until the evening of the next day. Huasai stayed at home all the time, silently deleting all the post-wedding updates he had shared on social media. After clearing his moments, he exited the app and immediately saw Shun Xiujin's newly posted 9-grid photo. It was a picture of him relaxing on a yacht. Each angle was exquisite, revealing the woman's slender hand. Huasai knew it was Jiang Xinyue, and also knew that Shun Xiujin was doing it on purpose. But now, he no longer cared about these trivial matters. He turned off his phone, got up, and went into the kitchen, preparing to make a salad himself. Just as dinner was ready, Jiang Xinyue suddenly returned. Looking at the cake she was carrying, Huasai was stunned for a moment. Don't you hate sweets? Why did you suddenly buy a cake? Jiang Xinyue walked over and, seeing his dinner, frowned slightly. Today is your birthday. Have you forgotten? Why are you eating such a simple meal? Huasai was stunned. His parents divorced when he was 4 or 5 years old and left him to his grandmother. When he was 15 or 16, his grandmother passed away. No one took care of him, and he never celebrated his birthday again. But since marrying Jiang Xinyue these past 3 years, she'd remembered every year, and no matter how busy she was, she would rush back to celebrate his birthday with him. When he returned from a long trip, she would worry about his safety and specifically go to the airport to pick him up. When there was thunder and lightning, she knew he was afraid and would gently hold him in her arms. Huasai thought that these unintentional concerns and gestures of goodwill were love. Until their 1-month wedding anniversary, Jiang Xinyue used work as an excuse to cancel the candlelit dinner they had booked in advance. Disappointed, he was called by Song Haochen to a bar to deliver a jacket, but unexpectedly ran into Shun Xiujin. She was dead drunk, clinging to the person who was supposed to be working overtime, refusing to let go. Jiang Xinyue, with a darkened face, angrily pulled him away. Shun Xiujin, stop being a damn psycho, let go. What do you take me for? Something you can throw away and pick up whenever you want. Shun Xiujin didn't listen to what she was saying, stubbornly using the hand that had been brushed away to hug her waist again and again, tirelessly. Finally, Jiang Xinyue gave in and admitted defeat. She stood there blankly, looking down at him with hidden, loving eyes, her tone full of surrender. Shun Xiujin, what am I supposed to do with you? At that moment, The bag in Huasai's hand fell to the ground with a thud. Many images flashed through his mind. The hands tightly clasping in the crowded streets, the umbrella tilted in the heavy rain, the figure kneeling on the ground in an academic gown proposing. Every scene was proof of Jiang Xinyue's soul love for Shen Xiujin. He had witnessed those moments firsthand, so he couldn't deny the truth. Even after 3 years of marriage, even though he had become her husband, even though he had once possessed a little of her affection, he couldn't deny it. To be precise, the kindness Jiang Xinyue showed him was nothing more than what he had stolen from Shen Xiujin's temporary absence. He had clutched onto this little bit of sweetness and thought he had gotten everything. But in reality, he had never possessed her, not even for a single second. So, looking at the number 24 on the cake, Huasai felt no emotion. He simply bowed politely and said, "Thank you." Jiang Xinyue lit the candles and smiled softly. "Sai, we're husband and wife. Don't say such formal words like thank you. Make a wish." He nodded and was about to get up when Jiang Xinyue's phone rang. Looking at her trembling eyes, Huasai guessed who the call was from and sat back down. And as he expected, the call ended a minute later, and Jiang Xinyue left. Listening to the sound of the car fading away outside the window, Huasai's lips curled into a bitter smile. The room was dark, and the flickering candlelight cast his lonely shadow on the wall. He clasped his hands together and made his 24th birthday wish. In the new year, Huasai will no longer love Jiang Xinyue. 3 days later, the class of 21 computer science department reunion. Huasai went and found that Jiang Xinyue was there too. She was surrounded by everyone in the center, and as soon as she saw him, she immediately went to sit next to him. Seeing the two of them sitting together, the atmosphere in the private room became a little strange. Huasai knew it was because of him. After all, in the eyes of these university classmates, he had only married Jiang Xinyue to climb the social ladder, so everyone looked down on him. But he didn't care about these malicious speculations, sitting quietly, without any outward reaction. The class monitor, who arrived late, carried a large cardboard box and greeted everyone. "The reason I invited everyone to the reunion today is twofold. First, to reconnect with each other, and second, the write a letter to your 5 years ago self activity has reached its deadline, so we can look at them together today." Everyone swarmed forward, making a lot of noise. "Let's play something fun. Let's have each person randomly draw a letter and read it out loud." "That's a great idea. Let me draw one first." The most active boy in the class squeezed into the crowd and was the first to draw an envelope. Several people around him who didn't know what was going on urged him to open it quickly. He cleared his throat and unfolded the letter. "Huasai, 5 years from now, how are you? I'm writing this letter to you under the sunlight. Although I don't know what the scene or mood will be like when you see these letters, I want to convey my current feelings to you." After hearing the first paragraph, the whole room fell silent, and everyone's gaze shifted to Huasai. Jiang Xinyue, who had been playing with her phone, also looked up, her face showing surprise as she looked at the person next to her. Huasai's face, which usually showed no emotion, suddenly felt a pang of something as he thought about the contents of the letter. The boy glanced at him, smirked, and continued reading. "This year you're 19 years old, a sophomore, and you have fallen in love with Jiang Xinyue, but she doesn't know about it. But even if she did, it wouldn't make a difference because she has someone she likes. Your unrequited love is destined to be fruitless. You might ask me, since it's destined to end without anything happening, then why not give up? What I want to tell you is that what I like is her forward-thinking, captivating charm in the midst of cheers, her unintentional concern when she picked up my book from the ground in the evening breeze, and her polite and sincere attitude even when she has to reject someone's confession. It's me who twists my neck while secretly looking at her during the weekly morning meeting. It's me who secretly put medicine in her drawer during a rainstorm after hearing that she was injured dancing. It's me who fills my diary with her name all night. Perhaps she will never remember me in her entire life, but it doesn't matter because unrequited love is a chaotic war for one person alone." After the letter was read, the whole place was silent. Jiang Xinyue's body stiffened suddenly. Suddenly, she remembered that wedding from years ago, a wedding she didn't want to recall. She remembered the figure who had stood up resolutely amidst a group of strange gazes and walked firmly to her side. Only now did she finally understand why Hui Sai had married her. It wasn't, as others said, to curry favor with power and wealth. It was simply because he had been in love with her for many years. In an instant, her heart, which had been silent for a long time, began to beat faster for some unknown reason. Impulsively, she wanted to ask all the questions that had been suppressed deep inside, but before she could speak, Shin Xiujin's call came through. "Xinyue, I'm downstairs at the club, and some creditors are blocking me." Before he could finish speaking, Jiang Xinyue's expression changed. She suddenly got up and rushed downstairs. The first thing she did when she saw the group of menacing men was lead her people to throw punches. Because she was angry, she told her people to strike hard and heavy, and several punches made the men spit blood. A group of people who followed quickly shielded Shun Xiujin behind them. He cried and said that the tattooed man had touched his hand. When Jiang Xinyue heard this, she immediately picked up an iron rod and smashed it down on the thug's hand. A scream of extreme pain echoed through the sky. Huasai rushed downstairs and saw this scene. He was stunned by the sight of the right hand covered in blood and nearly destroyed. He subconsciously looked up at Jiang Xinyue, but only saw her figure protecting Shun Xiujin as she left. The person who had been ruthless and decisive just now had now put on a gentle expression, coaxing him in a soft voice. This was a kind of care that Huasai had never had. He lowered his eyes, hiding the emotions within them, and laughed self-deprecatingly. Then he silently turned around and went home. It was not until dawn that Jiang Xinyue returned. Seeing him sitting silently on the sofa, she remembered that she should explain something. "Sai, today, they're all classmates. I can't ignore Shun Xiujin's matter." Huasai did not want to expose her, and simply nodded, took his pajamas, and went into the bathroom. Half an hour later, he came out, wiping his hair, only to see Jiang Xinyue holding his phone, a slightly strange expression on her face. "Sai, why did you buy a plane ticket?" Huasai paused, quickly realizing what she meant, and took the phone. "I didn't buy it. It's just a discount ticket push SMS from the airline." Jiang Xinyue wanted to ask more, but seeing that Huasai didn't seem to want to elaborate, she suppressed the thought. After all, Huasai never lied to her, did he? So she put down the phone, nodded, and was about to go wash up. Huasai stopped her and took out the medicine box from the cabinet. "Your back was scratched by broken glass. Let me take care of it for you." Jiang Xinyue froze for a moment, then obediently sat on the sofa, taking off her coat and revealing the bloody cut. It wasn't a serious injury, but because it was on her back, no one noticed. She didn't expect Huasai to notice. Watching him disinfect the wound with a cotton swab, looking focused, she thought of the letter. "Sai, about that letter today. Just clean it when you shower later, otherwise it might get infected. Be careful when fighting in the future. Don't get hurt again, because no one will apply medicine for you." Huasai didn't give her a chance to ask. Her thoughts interrupted. Jiang Xinyue didn't hear what he said at the end, and looked up. "What did you say?" Huasai shook his head, tied the gauze, and turned to go into the bedroom. After he dried his hair, Jiang Xinyue also came out after showering. She took the initiative to hug his waist, tiptoeing to kiss him, but he turned his head away from the slightly scorching kiss, his tone light. "Not feeling well today, want to rest early." Jiang Xinyue didn't force him, tucked him in, and turned off the light. The next day was a beautiful day. Huasai was washing up when he heard a commotion downstairs. He finished getting ready and came out to see Shun Xiujin leading a group of people to the door. Jiang Xinyue leaned against the doorway, frowning, her tone returning to its usual impatience. "What are you doing here?" Before Shun Xiujin could speak, several of his brothers approached with smiles. "Xiujin said you were a hero yesterday, saving the beauty, and he's very grateful. So he insisted on coming to thank you in person." Before the words were finished, Shun Xiujin conjured a large bouquet of flowers and a beautifully wrapped gift from behind his back. "Xinyue, thank you for helping me yesterday. This is a small token of my appreciation." Jiang Xinyue didn't reach out to take the things, but her expression softened a lot. Seeing this, Shun Xiujin directly handed the flowers to Huasai, his tone not very polite. "These are Juliet roses, Xinyue's favorite. Please help put them in a vase." Hearing this, Jiang Xinyue frowned slightly, her voice carrying a hint of coldness. Don't attach my name to things you like. Also, Sai is my husband. Please don't order him around like a servant. The atmosphere in the room cooled down because of these words. Only Huasai's face remained as usual. He looked at the delicate roses in his hand, learning their name for the first time. Juliet? Shen Xiujin liked them. No wonder she spent so much money cultivating them in the flower room. But he said nothing, handed the flowers to the nanny next to him, and instructed her. Go get those few vases from the display cabinet on the second floor. Shen Xiujin's gaze towards him became meaningful. Huasai pretended not to see it and went to the balcony with his breakfast. Through a window, he could clearly hear the conversation in the living room. Xinyue, isn't this a paper crane I used to fold in junior high? How did you keep it in a crystal box for so long? If you like it so much, I'll send you another box tomorrow. How come this Barbie doll set is here? I remember throwing it in the trash. You actually picked it up? Hey, isn't this the maple leaf we picked up from Shanyu Mountain? You actually made it into a bookmark and kept it for so long. Hearing Shen Xiujin's treasure hunt-like exclamation, Huasai recalled when he first came to this villa, he had asked Jiang Xinyue about the origin of these things. A little gift from my younger cousin in kindergarten, so I kept it. At that time, he really believed her explanation, which led him to ignore the complex emotions in her eyes. Those eyes filled with love and hate, longing and unwillingness. Clearly, they were all related to love. After a noisy morning, Shen Xiujin took the initiative to offer to treat. Jiang Xinyue refused with one sentence. No need. Please leave when you've made enough trouble. Shen Xiujin acted as if he didn't hear her, grabbed her hand, and walked towards the door. Afraid that she wouldn't go, a few brothers grabbed Huasai and went out together. The group drove to a hot spring resort. Huasai rarely socialized with them, so he found it difficult to fit in. He also didn't want to get involved, sitting alone in a corner, watching their lively scene of clinking glasses. Jiang Xinyue noticed his discomfort and took the initiative to walk over, intending to pour him a glass of juice. Just as he was about to take it, she got up and walked straight into the crowd. The glass of whiskey in Shen Xiujin's hand was about to reach his lips when she snatched it away. Immediately afterward, a reprimanding voice echoed through the room. You're allergic to alcohol, and you still dare to drink? Are you out of your mind? Shen Xiujin blinked, looking at her innocently. I thought it was juice. I just picked up the wrong one. Why are you so angry? As he spoke, he took the glass of juice from her right hand and smiled, his eyes crinkling. Thanks. Jiang Xinyue's hand unconsciously tightened. But in the end, she didn't say anything, turned around and returned to her seat, handing over the glass in her hand. Looking at the restless person in front of him and the glass of amber liquid, Huasai didn't reach out. He picked up his bag, his voice light. I don't drink. I'm going to the hot spring first. Jiang Xinyue then realized that she had passed the wrong glass. With her mind full of Shen Xiujin, she had actually given Huasai wine instead of juice. She wanted to explain a few words about what happened, but Huasai walked away quickly. She didn't have time to speak. The warm spring water relaxed Huasai's tired nerves. He leaned against the wall, watching the rising white mist, and gradually became sleepy, unknowingly falling asleep. Perhaps accustomed to the noise, he didn't hear the knocking on the door. Jiang Xinyue called him a few times without any response, and feeling anxious, she directly pushed the door open and entered. Seeing him looking drowsy, her heart skipped a beat, and she quickly jumped into the hot spring and helped him up. Huasai vaguely opened his eyes, and because of the feeling of weightlessness, he was forced to put his arm around her shoulder. Mist filled the air, their skin touched, and the atmosphere became ambiguous in an instant. Jiang Xinyue couldn't help but tiptoe. Just as their breaths were mingling, a burst of footsteps suddenly intruded. Shen Xiujin, who followed, saw this scene as soon as he came in, and the smile on his face instantly froze. He bit his lip hard, the shock and disappointment in his eyes undisguised, and turned around and trotted away. Jiang Xinyue froze in place. Her first reaction was to put Huasai down, lift her feet, and chase after him, leaving only one sentence. He misunderstood. I'll go explain. Misunderstood? They were clearly a legal couple, so what was there to explain, even if they were seen kissing? It was just that she had been immersed in the past, putting herself in the role of Shen Xiujin's girlfriend. That's why she subconsciously wanted to explain. How could someone who had willingly been tamed for love easily change that habit? Looking at her hurried departure, Huasai smiled softly, and then his eyes reddened. He threw on a blanket and opened the window to get some air, just in time to see Shun Xiujin storming out. He slammed the car door, only to have Jiang Xinyue grab his hand. Their hurried argument fell clearly into Huasai's ears. "Sai's asleep. I just didn't want him to catch a cold. Did you have to get so worked up?" "Right. He's your husband. I don't have a right to be angry. You should go back and be with him. Why bother explaining so much to your ex-boyfriend?" "Shun Xiujin, do you have to say things like that?" "What did I say? I only spoke the truth." With that, the two parted ways unhappily. Shun Xiujin, eyes red, shook off her hand and sped away in his car. Jiang Xinyue, left behind, only stood stunned for a dozen seconds before getting into her car and chasing after him. Watching the road revert to silent, dust-filled stillness, Huasai turned silently and went into the dressing room. By the time he came out dressed, he was grabbed by several brothers who were anxiously stamping their feet. "Brother-in-law, something happened. Yuejia and Shun Xiujin got into a car accident." When the group arrived at the hospital, they saw Jiang Xinyue waiting outside the operating room. She was soaked in blood, sweat beaded on her forehead, and her eyes were filled with panic and helplessness. It was the first time Huasai had ever seen her so disheveled. Several brothers crowded around, pressing her about what had happened, and she clutched at her hair in remorse, her voice filled with endless pain. "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have said those things to make him angry, and I shouldn't have let him leave alone. He was just trying to spite me. That's why he was driving so fast and had the accident." Hearing her take all the blame, Huasai's eyelashes trembled slightly. If those were just spiteful words, then what was the truth? That she had been waiting for him to come back, waiting to reconcile with him? Perhaps. Huasai didn't want to think about it any further. The nurse came out just then, her face especially serious. "The patient is hemorrhaging badly, but the blood bank is running low. Is there anyone here with type O blood who can help in an emergency?" The brothers looked at each other, but because they all had type AB blood, no one spoke. Only Jiang Xinyue was type O. She immediately took off her coat, put on sterile surgical clothing, and followed the nurse into the operating room. Minute after minute passed. Half an hour later, the nurse, supporting a pale Jiang Xinyue, came out. No one knew how much blood she had given, but she was completely drained and collapsed, dizzy, into Huasai's arms. The nurse didn't leave, but asked again. "The patient's condition is slowly improving, but he still needs 400 cubic centimeters of blood. Can you contact any friends with type O blood?" While waiting, everyone contacted people they knew, but no one with the same blood type could be found. Seeing the silent atmosphere, Jiang Xinyue became anxious and forced herself to stand up. "Is it just 400 cubic centimeters? I'll do it." The nurse looked at her, shocked by her reckless behavior, and turned to look at her. "You've already donated 600 cubic centimeters. You want to donate more?" The brothers also changed their expressions and came forward to persuade her. "Yuejia, don't donate anymore. I'll ask my secretary to check at the company and see if anyone with the same blood type will come forward and donate." But Jiang Xinyue shook her head, her tone stubborn. "Xiujin can't wait that long." With that, she rolled up her sleeve, revealing the bluish needle mark. Seeing her stubborn act, Huasai finally couldn't help but speak. "The doctors are still doing everything they can. They can contact other hospitals to transfer blood. You don't need to do this." Jiang Xinyue paused for a moment, ignored him, and turned to leave. Seeing her resolute figure walking into the operating room, everyone fell silent. Several brothers sighed heavily, their voices filled with exasperation. As long as it has anything to do with Shun Xiujin, Yuejia goes crazy. He broke his leg fighting for him before and stayed in the hospital for 3 months. Now he wants to go out and teach them a lesson even after being discharged. Isn't that the truth? Back in high school, she made a bet to skydive from 5,000 meters to get him a necklace he liked. The equipment malfunctioned halfway, and she almost died. Now she's risking her life to save him. I thought she still had feelings for Xiujin, so I tried to help them get together. But alas, it's a sin. They chatted away, completely forgetting that Huasai was standing beside them. Hearing these past events from their mouths, Huasai felt a sense of realization. It was only at this moment that he understood how ridiculous the thought that arose in his heart when he stood up on the wedding day was. There's no such thing as a latecomer surpassing others or warming a cold heart. Love is love, and not loving is not loving. From the beginning, he made the wrong bet. So now, facing this complete defeat, he accepted it. He didn't know how long it had been, but the red light in the operating room slowly went out. The doctor wheeled the two of them out, and the group's hearts tightened as they crowded around. The doctor wiped his sweat and looked at the unconscious Jiang Xinyu, sighing silently twice. Are they lovers? You rarely see such a devoted girl. Huasai was alone at the back, looking at the blinding lights above. He laughed silently. It wasn't until noon the next day that Jiang Xinyu woke up groggily. Her consciousness had not fully recovered, and the first words she blurted out were about Shun Xiujin. Was his surgery successful? How is he doing? Is he awake? Seeing her anxious look, Huasai, who hadn't slept all night, nodded, his voice hoarse. The doctor said nothing happened. He just needs to rest for a few months. Hearing this, the stone in Jiang Xinyue's heart finally fell to the ground. But she was still worried and lifted the quilt to get out of bed, saying she wanted to see for herself. No matter how Huasai tried to persuade her, she wouldn't listen. Finally, the nurse who came to give her N4 stopped her. She looked at the big bag of medicine, a trace of anxiety flashing in her eyes, filled with concern for Shun Xiujin. After thinking for a long time, she spotted the fruit basket on the cabinet and finally found an excuse. Sai, I called Shun Xiujin's parents yesterday, and they flew back to the country overnight. They should be at the hospital now. Please take the fruit basket over to say hello and see how he is. Huasai stared at her for a long time before saying, okay. She picked up the fruit basket and left the ward. Shun Xiujin was staying upstairs. Huasai was about to knock on the door when he noticed that it was ajar. Through the gap, he saw Shun Xiujin hugging a strange woman, his voice full of sweetness. Sister, didn't you say you would bring me to meet your parents? Why did you come alone? I wanted to bring my parents, but you haven't fully recovered. It's not a good time. I'll take you back when you're discharged, okay? Hearing this conversation, Huasai's hand clenched tightly. Shun Xiujin had a girlfriend, and they were about to meet the parents? Just then, the doctor making rounds pushed open the door, startling the two people in the room. Shun Xiujin looked up and saw Huasai, his face changing instantly. What are you doing here? Huasai didn't answer. He put the fruit basket on the floor and turned to walk downstairs. Shun Xiujin, dragging his still injured body, chased after him and grabbed him at the stairwell. Are you going back to tell Xinyue on me? Huasai turned his head, looked at the fleeting panic on his face, and said coldly, You already have a girlfriend, so why are you still clinging to Jiang Xinyue? Hearing this, Shun Xiujin raised an eyebrow, his expression quickly returning to normal. I just want to have my cake and eat it too, to play with them and enjoy their kindness to me. Can't you see that? Do you have to trample on her sincerity like this? Seeing his indignant look, Shun Xiujin chuckled, his voice full of flaunting. I have the capital to make them crazy about me. Even a woman like Jiang Xinyue, that heaven-blessed daughter, is no exception. What's wrong? Are you jealous? You might as well admit it openly. Maybe I'll be in a good mood and be willing to teach you a thing or two. His arrogant demeanor, which he seemed to take pride in, left Huasai speechless. This silent acquiescence only made Shun Xiujin even more smug. He sized up the person in front of him, his gaze finally settling on the wedding ring on his hand. You're just someone who got lucky. What right do you have to challenge me? Let me tell you, I didn't go abroad at all back then. I just drank too much the day before and messed around with 2 senior students until I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. If Xinyue hadn't been angry with me, you would never have had the chance to become Jiang Xinyue's husband. The anger that Huasai had suppressed for so long finally erupted at this moment. He couldn't help but raise his hand and slap Shun Xiujin. He didn't hit him hard, but Shun Xiujin seemed to have been hit with a heavy blow, falling straight down the stairs. Before Huasai could figure out what had happened, he was pushed away by Jiang Xinyue, who had just come out of the elevator. She strode down the stairs, her face full of distress as she picked up Shun Xiujin, who was covered in bruises from the fall, her eyes filled with suppressed anger as she looked at him. He didn't offend you. Why did you hit him so hard? Shun Xiujin deliberately exposed the red palm print on his face, crying hysterically in her arms. Forget it, Xinyue. Sai probably remembers that I'm your ex-boyfriend and is angry. I don't blame him. Let's go. These words directly blocked whatever Huasai wanted to say, trapping them in his throat. Seeing the colors slowly drain from her face, he knew that no matter how he explained things at this point, it would be in vain. This silence, in Jiang Xinyue's eyes, was tantamount to admission. She looked away in disappointment, supporting Shin Xiujin as she left. She didn't even give him another glance. After leaving the hospital, Huasai received a call from a staff member saying that his visa had been processed. He retrieved all his documents and began to pack his luggage. He tore off one page of the calendar every day, and soon it was nearly empty. The year was coming to an end, and he was about to leave the city where he had lived for more than 20 years. In the past week, Jiang Xinyue hadn't returned even once. On the other hand, Shun Xiujin sent many provocative messages every day. On the 7th day before his departure, he sent a video showing Jiang Xinyue kneeling on the ground, massaging his calf with extremely gentle movements. As Huasai watched, he threw everything he had bought for her over the years into the trash can. On the 5th day before his departure, he sent several photos showing Jiang Xinyue bringing over a box of jewelry, personally placing a ring on his hand. Huasai smashed the wedding photo to pieces and threw it into the fire. On the 3rd day before his departure, there was a recording of Jiang Xinyue muttering his name in her sleep, her tone sincere and heartfelt. Huasai packed up all the gifts she had given him after their marriage and sent them to a charity organization. The villa, which he had once regarded as home, gradually emptied, and his few belongings were gradually packed up. The servants in the house, seeing this scene of decluttering, were worried and asked him several times what had happened. He smiled, his tone relaxed. Just getting a divorce. Did Miss agree? Did she agree? Huasai didn't know, but he thought that Jiang Xinyue would probably be very happy if she saw the divorce agreement at this moment. After all, her heart and eyes were now completely focused on Shun Xiujin. On the 2nd day before his departure, Shun Xiujin sent another message. This time, the camera was not focused on Jiang Xinyue, but on his parents. Looking at the 3 people smiling and chatting around the hospital bed in the photo, Huasai felt nothing. He still didn't reply to any messages, but instead went into his contacts and deleted Shun Xiujin, Jiang Xinyue, and everyone related to them. The day he left, the first snow fell. Huasai carried the diaries and unsent love letters he had sorted out the night before to the courtyard. The orange firelight illuminated his face, and also burned to ashes those youthful sentiments that had been recorded. He looked up at the falling snow, calculating how long it would have to snow to cover the ashes. Just as he was lost in thought, the tightly closed door suddenly opened. Jiang Xinyue, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, was back, hurrying in. She glanced at the person squatting on the ground and went into the living room first. When she came out again, she stopped beside Huasai, looking at those light pink envelopes. She couldn't help but remember the letter at the party. The heart that had been angry for so long, finally he softened slowly. I've been busy lately. After I'm done, let's have a good talk. Talk about what? Divorce? Huasai smiled, looked up at her, and said in an extremely indifferent tone, Let's not talk. The thing you wanted most? I actually gave it to you a month ago. Thing? What thing? Just as Jiang Xinyue was about to ask, her phone rang a few times. She clicked it open and saw the messages, her eyebrows and eyes showing a smile. Seeing her expression, Huasai threw the last few love letters into the fire and stood up. His tall figure blocked the burning fire behind him. Jiang Xinyue finished replying to the messages, and the love letters were just burned out. She also forgot what she wanted to ask just now. Huasai personally escorted her to the door and opened the car door for her. A gust of cold wind blew, and Jiang Xinyue, seeing that he was dressed so thinly, gently told him to go back and not catch a cold. But Huasai insisted on staying at the door to see her off. Through the car window, Jiang Xinyue saw him raise his hand and wave, whispering something. She didn't hear it clearly, but it was probably just a reminder like drive safe. She had heard it countless times in the past 3 years, so she didn't take it to heart. After the car started, it quickly disappeared from sight. Huasai stood alone in the snow for a long time before returning to the bedroom, putting on a coat and carrying his suitcase downstairs. The snow fell heavier and heavier, the flakes landing on his head, looking like white hair from afar. The taxi stopped in front of the villa. Before getting in, he turned back and took one last look and repeated the barely audible words once more. Goodbye, Jingbe. Goodbye, Jiang Xinyue. Jiang Xinyue drove straight to the hospital. Today was Shun Xiujin's discharge day. Last night, he had been clamoring to see photos from his childhood, so she had made a special trip back to get them. Carrying the heavy bag to the elevator, she brushed past a strange woman. From this person, she smelled a familiar, faint perfume scent. It was Shun Xiujin's favorite perfume. This person had just come out of his ward. Was she a friend of his? A little doubt arose in Jiang Xinyue's mind. But the elevator came quickly, so she didn't think too much and pressed 7. As soon as he saw her, Shun Xiujin's face lit up with a brilliant smile. The two flipped through the photo album together, reminiscing about the past. Mentioning the things from childhood, Jiang Xinyue quickly forgot about other things. When it was noon, Shun's family came to pick Shun Xiujin up from the hospital. As soon as they saw her, they immediately thanked her. Jiang Xinyue quickly returned the greeting, her tone extremely humble. Xiujin was injured, and I can't escape responsibility. Taking care of him is my duty. Hearing this, Shun Xiujin gently patted her hand. I told you, my injury has nothing to do with you, Xinyue. I even had your aunt and uncle over yesterday to explain what happened. Can you please stop blaming yourself for everything? Father Shun nodded in agreement. Over the years, your aunt and I have been busy with work. If you hadn't taken care of Xiujin, who knows how crazy he would have become. We should be thanking you. Shun Xiujin walked to Jiang Xinyue's side, about to act spoiled, but was pulled back by his mother. Now you're older, and you've started your own family. Xiujin is still immature and keeps bothering you. Please don't mind it. We'll educate him properly and make sure he doesn't trouble you anymore. The atmosphere in the room froze. Jiang Xinyue understood the unspoken meaning. Her breathing faltered for a moment, then quickly returned to normal. The smile on her lips disappeared, leaving only formality and restraint. Shun Xiujin's expression also changed, but he pretended not to understand what his mother was saying and smiled at Jiang Xinyue, trying to change the subject. Okay, Xinyue and I grew up together. What's with all this talk about trouble? She even promised to give me a ride home, right? Jiang Xinyue looked up, about to answer, but after meeting the meaningful gazes of the two elders, the words circling in her mouth changed their meaning. That was the plan, but my secretary just said there's something at the company. Now that uncle and aunt are here, I won't disturb you. After saying that, she didn't linger and turned to leave the room. She hadn't taken a few steps when Shun's mother stopped her, handing her the photo album. Xinyue, in the past, Xiujin was the one who let you down. But he was young back then and didn't understand how precious sincerity is. Don't take it to heart. Looking at the elder who had watched her grow up, her face filled with apology, Jiang Xinyue gently shook her head. Annie, I've already put those things in the past. I won't hold a grudge against Xiujin, don't worry. Shun's mother sighed, her eyes filled with regret. It's Xiujin who doesn't have the fortune, and it's also that you two didn't have the fate to be husband and wife. I heard from your mother that the man you married later is very filial and understanding, and that you have a good relationship. You must cherish him. He's the one who deserves your sincere treatment and will grow old with you. Jiang Xinyue knew that Shun's mother meant well. She also understood that her story with Shun Xiujin ended at that wedding when she stubbornly insisted on marrying someone else. In these 3 years, she had tried to forget the past and live well with Huasai. But after all, he was the man she had loved for 18 years. How could she just let go? So when Shun Xiujin returned to the country and repeatedly bothered her, she eventually softened. Even if they couldn't be lovers, there was still friendship. With this thought, she indulged herself, going to his side again and again. To be honest, her heart was touched every time Shun Xiujin cried and said he still loved her. But those moments were like ripples on a lake when the wind blows, quickly disappearing without a trace. She would always remember in the moment she was about to fall that Huasai was her husband. Again and again, she felt like she was trapped in a maze, unable to find a way out. Until she heard these words, she was like she had been enlightened and slowly woke up. Remembering the figure who watched her leave in the heavy snow this morning, a warm feeling surged in Jiang Xinyue's heart. She bowed deeply to Shun's mother, her voice sincere. "Thank you for specifically telling me this, I understand." After leaving the hospital, Jiang Xinyue returned to the old house. Jiang's mother called her to the study, her tone unusually serious. "When you first got married, I felt that Sai's family background wasn't good enough for you, so I had some opinions about him. But in these 3 years, seeing how much he cares about you, how he manages the house so well, and how well he takes care of us, I've slowly let go of those knots in my heart. You're not getting any younger, and there are some things I don't want to keep repeating. Let bygones be bygones, and don't dwell on the past anymore. You have a good eye. You picked a wonderful husband. You should settle down and live your life properly. Marriage isn't like dating. It's a slow-cooked porridge. It's about the long haul. You, inside, didn't have much of an emotional foundation before your wedding, and you were so young. You need to communicate clearly and promptly, so misunderstandings don't build up in your heart. Do you understand?" Jiang Xinyue didn't expect her mother, who was usually so taciturn, to speak so earnestly about these domestic matters. But she knew that her mother was right, and she lowered her head respectfully. "You're right, I know what to do." Jiang's mother nodded with relief, then took out a box and pushed it over. "This is the bracelet your grandmother gave me when I got married. You can give it to Sai. Your father's birthday is the day after tomorrow. Remember to bring him back, so we can have a simple family dinner together." Jiang Xinyue opened the box and looked at the pair of jadeite bangles inside, momentarily stunned. Suddenly, she remembered the wedding 3 years ago that had caused quite a stir. Shun Xiujin announced over the phone to everyone present that he was calling off the wedding, and both families and friends changed their expressions and left immediately. She stood alone in the center of the stage, her heart ashen, and picked up the microphone, releasing all the emotions that had been building up in her heart for a long time. She didn't actually know what she said. It wasn't until Huasai stood up, was pushed to the backstage by her impetuous bridesmaids, and returned to her sight, that she came back to her senses. "Here Comes the Bride" started playing. He put on that slightly oversized suit and walked step by step, resolutely, to her side. Together, they received the scrutiny of thousands upon thousands of onlookers. Fearless and unwavering, perhaps infected by his determination, a spark of desperate courage was reignited in Jiang Xinyue's desolate heart. Although she still didn't know the name of her groom, but she had already made up her mind to treat the person who wore her ring for the rest of her life well, never to betray the hand he had extended to her in the darkest moment of her life. Jiang Xinyue put the box containing the bracelet in the glove compartment of the passenger seat. Before closing the glove compartment, she saw the document and pondered when it had been put in. But after racking her brains, she had no idea. Just as she was about to take it out to take a look, she received a call from Shun Xiujin. "Xinyue, my parents are gone. My friends heard I was discharged from the hospital and want to celebrate with me. Are you done with work? Do you want to come and join us?" This time, Jiang Xinyue didn't hesitate and refused directly. Shun Xiujin's tone immediately became dejected, and, just as he was about to plead, she used the excuse of having a meeting. After hanging up the phone, she pushed the glove compartment shut and drove home. The once lively villa was unusually quiet today. Jiang Xinyue looked around and noticed that many things were missing from the living room. The hair clip she had left on the coffee table a few months ago, the water cup on the dining table, the throw pillows on the sofa, all were insignificant little things that Huasai had bought. She wouldn't have noticed it before, but for some reason, this time she keenly sensed something was wrong and stopped the butler to ask, "Why are so many things missing from the house?" "Mister, threw them all away." The elderly butler answered respectfully, then looked up at her expression, hesitated, and said, "Miss, are you really going to divorce Mister?" "Sister, you, in this snowy weather, I knew you'd be home. How long has it been since you hung out with your friends? Let's go, let's get a drink." Several close girlfriends, arm in arm, entered and pulled Jiang Xinyue out, brooking no argument. The word that she hadn't managed to say was swallowed by the noise. Although they were going for drinks, the sisters, mindful of Jiang Xinyue's health, only dared to give her a few glasses of water. She watched the others playing games, took a couple of sips, pulled out her phone, found Huasai, and wrote a message. Did you go out today? Where did you go? What time will you be back? Send me the address. I'll pick you up later. The roads are slippery with snow. Be careful not to fall. Before she could hit send, the sister who had just finished a phone call beside her went pale. She grabbed Jiang Xinyue, called out to the others at the table, her voice urgent. Let's go, let's go. New place, there's a show to see. Everyone was baffled by her disjointed words. But hearing that there was a show, they all got excited and crammed into the car. All the way, everyone kept asking where they were going, but she didn't say a word, only glancing at Jiang Xinyue from time to time. Their destination was a bar they had never been to before. Before getting out of the car, this sister pushed Jiang Xinyue to the front and said some strange things. Xinyue, I heard rumors about some things a long time ago, but I only wanted to tell you when it was absolutely certain. Don't blame me if you see something later. I'm really doing this for your own good. They had all grown up together like sisters, and hearing her speak in such a serious tone, the smile slowly faded from Jiang Xinyue's face. She looked at the door so close to her, hesitated, and raised her hand. The door opened, and the scene inside the bar was fully revealed. In the dazzling, brightly lit hall, everyone was immersed in the deafening DJ music. The white spotlight shone down, clearly illuminating a couple kissing passionately in the center of the stage. Even from a distance, Jiang Xinyue recognized Shun Xiujin at a glance. He was embracing a stunningly beautiful woman, her face flushed an unnatural red, her hands constantly stroking his back. He looked completely different from the quirky, spoiled, and unrestrained young master of a wealthy family that she knew. Unrecognizable. For a moment, the 7 or 8 people standing at the door fell silent. Contrasting with the silence was the increasingly fervent cheering in the hall. Damn, he goes straight to playing hard as soon as he gets out of the hospital. They've been kissing for half an hour. Aren't they going to run out of air? What's wrong with a boyfriend and girlfriend kissing if they're into each other? Are you jealous? Don't even mention it. Xiujin's been with his girlfriend for half a year. Is he still not bored? How long do you think this one will last? Will it be longer than Jiang Xinyue? Don't try to guess what Xiujin is thinking. He's just playing around. Look at Jiang Xinyue. He dumped her 3 years ago, but when he gets in the mood, he still teases her like a dog. Hearing these reckless words from Shun Xiujin's friends, the sisters' anger flared up. They couldn't stand it and squeezed through the crowd. One went to turn off the music, one went to turn on the lights, and the others jumped onto the stage and surrounded the two who were kissing passionately. This sudden change disrupted the lively atmosphere. Coming back to his senses, Shun Xiujin's face turned extremely ugly when he saw the people who had barged in. Looking around, and not seeing Jiang Xinyue, he breathed a slight sigh of relief and looked coldly at the ill-intentioned group. How did you guys find out about this place? I didn't invite you. What are you doing here? The sisters were already angry and directly argued with him when they heard this. It's just a bar if you can come. Why can't we? Did you need an invitation to invite you? What's wrong? Bringing your new girlfriend here for your honeymoon. Afraid we'd see it and rat you out? Shun Xiujin didn't want to lose face in front of his friends and girlfriend, so he retorted impulsively. Afraid? What am I afraid of? I'm just in a relationship. Why would I be afraid of Jiang Xinyue knowing? She's a married woman. Does she have the right to interfere with her ex-boyfriend's freedom to date? As soon as these words came out, his buddies all applauded and whistled. Seeing their expressions, not angry but amused, Shun Xiujin's heart sank. He realized something was wrong and was about to ask for clarification when the girls spoke up first. So you've been pretending to be a lovelorn, devoted man for so long, and now the fox's tail is showing? You're not acting anymore. Shun Xiujin, you've been dating other women for half a year now. Why are you trying to have your cake and eat it too, and still trying to mess with Sister Yu? Hearing this, Shun Xiujin's girlfriend also realized something was amiss, and her face darkened. Shun Xiujin hadn't expected this to happen today. He knew things were about to blow up, so he recklessly blurted out whatever came to mind. Wasn't she the one who kept throwing herself at me and begging me to get back together? I'm so annoyed with her. How could I possibly try to mess with her? She's clinging to me like a leech. I can't shake her off. I was sick of her 3 years ago. That's why I deliberately ran away from the wedding. It has nothing to do with going abroad. The only person I love now is my girlfriend. Those are all your true feelings. are they? Faced with the stern questioning from everyone, Shun Xiujin didn't want to show any weakness. He raised his chin like a proud peacock. Of course, even if Jiang Xinyue herself comes, I'll tell her the truth, word for word. With this guarantee, no one spoke again. The sisters tacitly took a few steps back, clearing a path. Seeing their coordinated movement, Shun Xiujin's right eyelid twitched violently. He turned his head and looked at the familiar figure standing at the doorway, and the restless heart that had been beating so wildly instantly turned cold. The people who had been watching the show below the stage also turned their heads to look. 3 years later, Jiang Xinyue once again became the center of everyone's attention. But surprisingly, she didn't have any expression on her face. None of the emotions that others imagined, anger, disappointment, pain, embarrassment, were revealed in the slightest. There was only a sense of release after a lifetime of experiences and the calmness of a final curtain call. Across the vast crowd, she looked at the person on the stage, whose face had turned pale. The man she had loved for so many years, but could never have. The groom who had left her alone at the wedding. At this moment, he suddenly felt incredibly unfamiliar. It was as if she was seeing him for the first time, but she had known him for 18 years. I heard everything, word for word. Thank you for finally telling me the truth, instead of continuing to lie to me, Shun Xiujin. In the midst of countless whispers, Jiang Xinyue's voice was calm and composed. It wasn't like a confrontation, but rather like talking about the weather. The sisters on the stage looked at her like this, and suddenly remembered the scene 3 years ago when Huasai first appeared before them. The same expression, the same tone, the same number of words. I am currently single. If you have no objection, I can become your groom, Jiang Xinyue. After calmly telling the entire audience these words, Jiang Xinyue lowered her eyes and a faint smile appeared on her lips. She also thought of Huasai. Only now did she finally understand the pressure Huasai was under that day when he stood by her side. Such a cautious, quiet person, to be able to do that for her. Yet it took her 3 years to see his grand and ardent love. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. Jiang Xinyue didn't want to waste any more time on things that weren't worth it. She turned around and left resolutely. Step by step, she walked with unwavering determination. Back in the car, Jiang Xinyue opened her phone and sent the message she hadn't had time to send earlier. With a ding, she lowered her eyes, thinking Huasai had replied instantly. Amidst the white and green, the red exclamation point was particularly glaring. She blinked rapidly as she looked at the Add Friend verification prompt below. The note in the center of the screen, the profile picture on the left, were all undoubtedly correct. It was Huasai himself. But why would he blacklist and delete her for no reason? Jiang Xinyue couldn't understand it. She sent a few more messages, but was still blacklisted. The still water of her heart rippled with countless waves. Reason told her something must have happened, but emotion was desperately suppressing reason, trying to reassure her with other reasons. This morning he had still sent her out the door like he always did. His expression seemed normal, and he even waved goodbye to her. Maybe he just clicked the wrong button? Jiang Xinyue desperately tried to reassure herself. But the speeding car, the gas pedal floored, betrayed her panicked heart. She ran 10 red lights before rushing home before dark. The house was no different from when he left, still desolate. So desolate, it didn't feel like home anymore. She saw the kitchen light on and, thinking Huasai was inside, making hangover soup, rushed in. There was soup simmering on the stove, but it was the housekeeper watching the fire. Seeing her, she quickly bowed and hurriedly poured her a bowl of soup. Jiang Xinyue hadn't been drinking, but took a small sip anyway. The hot soup entered her mouth, but it wasn't the taste she was used to. Jiang Xinyue frowned. Isn't the hangover soup made by Mr. Hua? The little housekeeper's clear eyes widened, and she apologized in a panic. Oh, I'm sorry, miss. Mr. Hua taught me how to make soup before he moved, but I didn't write it down. Please wait a moment. I'll make you a new batch right away. In that sentence, Jiang Xinyue only heard 4 words. Moved out. Her pounding heart fell straight to the bottom of the endless dark lake. When did he move out? This morning, after you left. Jiang Xinyue searched every corner of the house, but there was still no trace of Huasai. The old butler, hearing the commotion, looked at her panicked and distraught expression, and finally asked the question that had been weighing on his mind. Miss, why did you agree to divorce Mr. What? Divorce? Hearing these two words, Jiang Xinyue felt dizzy. She had never heard Huasai mention this, so why did everyone assume she wanted a divorce? She desperately replayed the events of the past few days in her mind, trying to find some clues. Song Haochin's strange behavior in the cafe, the plane ticket she didn't have time to look at, the ambiguous words he said this morning. He already gave her what she wanted? Thinking of the words she hadn't had time to clarify, Jiang Xinyue became increasingly panicked. She asked her secretary to check on Huasai's whereabouts while driving to find him herself. She first went to the old house where he lived before their marriage, but only saw boarded-up windows and doors. The neighbors told her that Huasai had come back yesterday, thrown away a lot of things, and seemed to be leaving for a long trip. The next second, the secretary's message arrived. President Jiang, I found that Mr. Hua bought a ticket to San Francisco half a month ago, left this morning, and should have arrived by now. So Huasai wasn't just moving out, but decided to go abroad? Realizing this, Jiang Xinyue felt a chill in her heart. She couldn't understand why Huasai would suddenly have the idea of divorce and leave without any warning. Becoming her husband, standing by her side, wasn't that what he had always longed for? After instructing his secretary to book a flight to the United States, Jiang Xinyue returned to the car. She didn't drive, leaning back in her seat, staring blankly at the block chat interface. Her phone, without charging for a day, issued a low battery warning. She pulled open the drawer to take out the charging cable. Her gaze swept over the file folder. This time, she finally opened the file that had been stored for a month. As soon as she saw the words divorce agreement, Jiang Xinyue's hand trembled uncontrollably. But she remained calm, turning page after page. Until the last page, seeing her own signature on it, she was completely stunned. Why would her signature appear on a divorce agreement? Why did she have absolutely no memory of signing it? Jiang Xinyue's mind raced, trying to piece together the details she had ignored and forgotten. The person who drafted the agreement was Huasai, and the only time he asked her to sign something was a month ago in the evening. He had said he wanted to give her a gift, but she didn't have time to look at it and left after signing. Huasai had left the agreement in her car and reminded her many times to check it. For an entire month, the agreement had been in effect, but she had never opened it. The light dozen or so pages felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds in Jiang Xinyue's hand. At that moment, she finally understood why Huasai wanted to leave. She sensed his wavering emotions in this marriage. He thought she would return to Shun Xiujin and divorce him. So he chose to leave first. And the thing that was labeled a gift was this divorce agreement. He decided to return her freedom, decided to fulfill that infatuation she hadn't let go of for many years. When the plane landed in San Francisco, it was early afternoon local time. Outside the arrival gate, Huasai met his long-unseen teacher, Yishi. The year he was a senior, his teacher resigned from University A and started her own business. After 3 years of hard work, she successfully established herself in Silicon Valley. Huasai decided to go abroad precisely because he received a job offer from her. This talented woman, only in her early 30s, had mingled with students at school. Now that she had entered society, she was even more approachable. As soon as she saw Huasai, she waved to him warmly. "Sai, long time no see." Huasai pushed his suitcase over, his face full of smiles. "Teacher Yi, long time no see. I've resigned, so don't call me teacher anymore. If you don't mind, just call me Sister Shi from now on." This gentle and cheerful disposition made Huasai, who was still not quite used to the foreign atmosphere, feel especially warm. He didn't stand on ceremony and simply called her sister. Yishi responded with a smile and led him towards her home. On the way back, they talked about many old times. From classroom anecdotes to farewell gatherings, they were both filled with emotion. "Sai, half a year ago, when you graduated with your master's degree, I invited you to come to America, but you didn't agree at the time. What made you suddenly change your mind?" Huasai's eyes froze for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. He thought for a few seconds, choosing his words carefully. "At that time, I hadn't really decided what I wanted to do next, and I didn't really want to go abroad because of family reasons, so I didn't accept your offer. But now I've figured it out. Since I don't know what the future holds, I might as well go out and try. Maybe I'll find a new ideal along the way. Ishii was also a person who had been through it and knew that young people who had just entered society were confused at first, so she could understand his current mood and comforted him. Life is about taking things one step at a time. Look at me. I spent a few years teaching at university only to realize that the ivory tower life wasn't for me, so I decided to come out and see the world. You're so young. It's normal to feel lost. But as long as you bravely take this step, I believe you will find your life's purpose. With Yishii as a living example, Hwasai felt much more at ease, as if he had taken a reassurance pill. After parking the car, Yishii took him back to her apartment. A standard two-bedroom apartment, facing south with plenty of sunlight and a supermarket downstairs. Looking at the clean and tidy room, Hwasai felt most of his fatigue dissipate. Yishii took him around, then told him some things to keep in mind, and then took him out for a meal. After eating, the two went to the supermarket to buy some essential household items. After taking him home, Yishii didn't bother him any further. She left her address and then left. Hwasai took a shower, lay in bed, and looked at the darkening sky outside the window, suddenly feeling unreal. At this time yesterday, he was still in his villa in Jingbei, wrapped in a blanket watching the heavy snow outside the window. Today, he had already flown to another city across the ocean to start his single life. The room was very quiet. He rambled on in his thoughts and quickly fell asleep. Hwasai had a dream. In the dream, he was sitting at Jiang Xinyue's wedding. This time, Shun Xiujin did not run away and married her. He witnessed them exchange rings and make vows to stay together for life. He left the scene during the kiss blessed by 10,000 people and returned to the silent campus, burying himself in his studies for 3 years. After graduation, he flew to America to start a new life and never went back. And in this short life, his only interaction with Jiang Xinyue was those 4 years as classmates. After that, separate ways. He remained the unfamiliar male classmate whose name she had never remembered. Perhaps the scene in the dream was too real. Hwasai was still a bit dazed when he woke up the next day. He couldn't quite distinguish between reality and dreams and sat on the sofa for a long time. It wasn't until noon, when Yishii called, that he was completely awakened. "Sai, are you up? I'm downstairs at your place. Shall we have lunch together?" Hwasai found Yishii's car in the parking lot. He opened the passenger door. As he leaned in, he vaguely glimpsed someone sitting in the back seat. Out of courtesy, he didn't look closely, thinking he would wait for Yishii to introduce them. After sitting down and fastening his seatbelt, the person next to him didn't say anything, but a familiar voice came from the back seat. "Did you rest well?" "Sai." Hearing this familiar voice, Sai suddenly raised his head. Through the rearview mirror, he saw a familiar face. It was Jiang Xinyue. He hadn't seen her for a day, and she looked very tired, as if she hadn't rested for a long time. But her eyes, looking at him, were clear and firm. For a moment, many words surged to Hwasai's throat, but he didn't know what to ask. In the end, he simply didn't say a word. The car fell silent. A minute later, Yishii finally realized that the atmosphere was not right and quickly turned around to look at him, trying to smooth things over. "Sai, this is your classmate, Jiang Xinyue. Don't you recognize her? She called me as soon as she landed at the airport and said she wanted to get together, and I thought since you guys are classmates, we could all have a meal together. You don't mind, do you?" Hwasai did mind. But in front of Ishii, who knew nothing about their past, he needed to remain calm. So he could only pretend to be nonchalant and force a smile in response. "Poetry, sistery, just arrange it. I'm just jet-lagged and a bit dizzy." Ishii smiled and nodded, indicating for him to take it slow and easy, then turned to chat with Jiang Xinyue in the back seat. "Xinyue, are you all right? Would you like to go back and rest first? We can meet up later." Jiang Xinyue hadn't slept for almost 30-odd hours, but she knew that now was not the time to rest, so she gently shook her head. "It's all right, I'm fine." "Then let's eat first. I've already booked the restaurant. You two didn't seem to interact much when you were in school. I didn't expect you to coincidentally meet in San Francisco after graduation." A coincidence? Although Hwasai had his head down, he could feel the burning gaze from behind. He knew that Jiang Xinyue had come to find him. The head of the Jiang Corporation, the pride of heaven who grew up surrounded by flowers and applause, had actually been divorced by a nobody like him. She must be unwilling. He closed his eyes and massaged his temples, trying to get his brain working so he could deal with whatever might happen next. Meanwhile, the conversation between the two women continued. It's not exactly a coincidence. I came to San Francisco because I have something very important to deal with, so encountering Sai was inevitable. Judging from her tone, she seemed to be very familiar with Huasai. But looking at Huasai's expression, it was as if they were strangers. This confusing relationship left Yi feeling a little bewildered. So you came to find Sai? Did you two interact often after graduation? Are you close? Not really. Hearing these two words, Jiang Xinyue's eyes deepened, and she pursed her lips slightly. Well, you were classmates for 4 years, after all. Even if the relationship is just okay now, you can interact more in the future, and you'll gradually become closer. By the way, Xinyue, do you have any work in the U.S. this time? Are you alone? Did you bring your family? I heard you got married, and your husband was also a classmate. Hearing this, Huasai's heart beat faster, and he couldn't help but clench his hands. After a long while, he finally heard Jiang Xinyue's slightly hoarse voice. Yes, but he filed for divorce a while ago. I came to the United States this time to deal with this matter. Yishi didn't expect that a casual gossip would touch on someone's privacy, and she immediately felt a little embarrassed. Huasai didn't want to continue the topic and directly changed the subject. Sister E, did you book a Western restaurant or a Chinese restaurant today? How much longer? I didn't eat anything this morning, and I'm a little hungry. Yishi gave him a grateful look and quickly picked up the conversation. Western restaurant, just a few hundred meters, almost there. The meal lasted for an hour. During that time, Yishi acted as a middleman, facilitating communication between the two. Looking at Huasai burying his head in his food, Jiang Xinyue could only swallow the questions that had been accumulating for a long time. Halfway through the meal, something suddenly happened at the company, and Yishi hurried off to deal with it, leaving first. The alumni gathering turned into a court hearing for a divorced couple. The atmosphere immediately froze. After Huasai finished the last piece of steak, Jiang Xinyue appropriately handed him a napkin. He didn't take it, but instead got up and pulled out a new one, his tone light, but to the point. If you have anything to say, let's get it all out in the open now. Jiang Xinyue's outstretched hand paused, and she met his gaze. Although it had only been a day since they last saw each other, the person in front of her was vastly different from the gentle and docile husband she remembered. She didn't know if he had changed, or if she had never seen the real Huasai. Thinking carefully, in their 3 years of marriage, apart from the tender moments in bed, she had rarely looked at his face and rarely noticed his emotional changes. He was like a pool of lake water, still and calm, standing quietly where she could see him whenever she turned her head. Over time, she slowly forgot where this pool of water came from and why it lingered here, refusing to move on. Just when she had gotten used to it, this pool of water suddenly began to flow, rushing uncontrollably towards a strange and inaccessible place for her. She barely caught up, only to be surprised to find that this pool of water was not as calm as she had imagined, nor would it remain in place forever for her own selfish desires. All her previous perceptions were merely her own preconceived notions. Faced with this new, unfamiliar Huasai, Jiang Xinyue was at a loss. But she knew that his decision to divorce must be related to her. So, at the beginning of the negotiation, she sincerely expressed her apology to him. I'm sorry. In the past 3 years, I failed to fulfill my responsibilities as a wife, failed to provide you with a normal family atmosphere, and ignored your consistent efforts. I'm sorry. Huasai knew that what she said at this moment was sincere, but he was not touched by these belated apologies. He understood that he and Jiang Xinyue were wrong from the start, and there was no chance of a good outcome. To ask someone who doesn't love you at all to form a family with you and live wholeheartedly together for the rest of your life. This was an unimaginable thing to begin with. Not to mention, this person had never let go of someone else from beginning to end. Huasai proposed a divorce simply because he realized how naive and ridiculous his thoughts were 3 years ago, and he wanted to correct the wrong path he had taken. It had nothing to do with responsibility, atmosphere, or effort. So he only answered her with one sentence. I don't need your apology. Just submit the divorce agreement and mail the divorce certificate to me, collect on delivery. Jiang Xinyue froze on the spot. On the plane here, she thought there was still a chance, and she spent the whole night sleeplessly thinking about how to apologize and win him back. But only at this moment did she realize how firm his determination was. Looking at his calm face, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes, and her tone became much more urgent. Do you really have to get a divorce? What? Huasai stared at her, word by word, clearly and decisively. I married you because I liked you. I want a divorce because I don't like you anymore. That's all. After leaving the restaurant, Huasai didn't go home, but went to find Yishi. Seeing him come alone, a trace of surprise flashed on Yishi's face. Where's Xinyue? She had something to take care of after you left. I was thinking I'm starting the job in a couple of days, so I came to check things out first. Yishi didn't think much about it. She had just finished her work anyway, so she enthusiastically took him to tour the company. After work, the two of them went out for dinner, and then Huasai returned to his apartment. He opened his phone and saw a friend request message from Jiang Xinyue. Suddenly, Huasai remembered the words he said before parting. Since you've already made up your mind to get a divorce, then I will respect your wishes. I'm not worthy of your affection, and I've failed your feelings. I'm very sorry. But after all, we've been married for 3 years. Even if we separate, can we still be friends? Friends? Between him and Jiang Xinyue, what is the need to continue being friends? Huasai couldn't figure it out. In his mind, they should part peacefully and never see each other again. So he didn't immediately accept the request. When it was 10 o'clock and he was about to rest, he realized that Jiang Xinyue had sent another friend request, this time with a note. There are some clauses on the divorce agreement that I want to discuss with you. Involving the divorce, Huasai instantly clicked accept. Jiang Xinyue didn't waste any time and sent over the few clauses that needed modification, highlighted in red. Upon closer inspection, Huasai realized that she had changed the original property division to an equal split. In other words, after he obtained the divorce certificate, he would be taking half of Jiang Xinyue's fortune. It was like a windfall, but Huasai felt uneasy and sent a voice message. Regarding the property division, please adhere to the original contract. You don't need to allocate me so much property according to the marriage law. I would feel undeserving. Jiang Xinyue seemed to have anticipated his response and quickly replied, I know you didn't agree to marry me for the money. The reason I modified the contract isn't to compensate you, but because the law stipulates that this is what you deserve. Don't overthink it. Huasai explained a few more times, but Jiang Xinyue kept repeating the same reasoning. He was tired and didn't want to persuade her anymore, so he let her have her way. Time passed day by day, and Huasai officially started working, gradually adapting to his career. A month later, he received his divorce certificate, along with countless properties, shares, and other assets. Looking at the endless zeros in his bank account, Huasai didn't know what to do with it, so he put it away and acted as if nothing had happened, continuing with his life. The harsh winter passed, and spring arrived. Huasai went to work as usual, and as soon as he arrived at the company, Yishi called him into the office for a meeting. The meeting's content revolved around project cooperation with several IT companies in China. During the meeting, an assistant was to be selected to accompany Yishi back to China to discuss cooperation. Her gaze swept across everyone and finally settled on Huasai. Sai, you come with me. Caught off guard by being named, Huasai was very surprised. He had only been in the job for a quarter, so he shouldn't be able to take on such important work. But since Yishi had chosen him, he had no choice but to agree. After the meeting, the two of them tacitly stayed behind. Yishi didn't beat around the bush and spoke frankly. Sai, although this trip back to China involves discussing details with 4 companies simultaneously, our focus is on cooperation with Jiang's group. Jiang? Hearing that surname, Huasai vaguely guessed something. He looked at Yishi, his eyes filled with hesitation. Jiang Xinyue? Yishi nodded, hesitated for a moment, and chose to be frank. After the last gathering, Xinyue privately asked to meet with me again. This project foundation was laid at that time. She actually told me a bit about your situation, but I thought it was your personal privacy, so I never brought it up. But this project is now at its most critical stage. To ensure everything goes smoothly, I would like to ask for your help and accompany me back to China to participate in the project's discussion. Although it's a bit presumptuous, I hope you can understand. Huasai didn't quite understand Yi Shi's meaning. He was just a newcomer who had been with the company for a short time, with no background or connections. What use would he be in such an important project? Just because he was Jiang Xinyue's ex-husband? Huasai could only think of that possibility. But Jiang Xinyue didn't like him. Their divorce was swift and clean, and she hadn't contacted him since. Why did Yi Shi think that she would compromise for him? To avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, Huasai spoke truthfully. Sister Shi, I didn't tell you these things before because I was already divorced and I thought they were unimportant. But this project is of great importance, so I'll be blunt. Jiang Xinyue and I were only married briefly. She doesn't like me, and we didn't have any marital affection. It was a good ending when we divorced. From what I know, though she is very sentimental, she will still adhere to her principles when it comes to matters of great importance. If you think bringing me along to discuss the collaboration will increase the chances of success, then I might have to pour cold water on that idea. Hearing the description of their marital status from another party involved, Yi Shi felt it was quite peculiar. She motioned for Huasai to sit down and couldn't help but ask a question. Are you sure Jiang Xinyue has no feelings for you? Huasai quickly nodded. Looking at his affirmative expression, Yi Shi couldn't help but recall what Jiang Xinyue had said before leaving San Francisco. Teacher Yi, Sai and I are actually married, or rather, currently separated. I didn't do well enough in this marriage, and he was disappointed in me, so he filed for divorce. Sai's attitude is firm, and I don't want to put him in a difficult position, so I agreed. But personally, I want to salvage this relationship. I just need some time to cool down and think. Sai definitely doesn't want to come back with me. Could you please take care of him for a while? To express my gratitude, I am willing to discuss the RO project collaboration with you. Although it had been a long time, Yi Shi still vividly remembered Jiang Xinyue's disheartened appearance and extremely sincere tone. She found it hard to believe that someone like Jiang Xinyue would hand over a project coveted by countless large IT companies to her for the sake of a former husband she had no feelings for. But since Jiang Xinyue had said there were issues between her and Huasai, she didn't want to speculate too much and only asked Huasai for his opinion. Don't think too much about the project with me here. The reason I want to take you along is partly for personal reasons and partly to give you some experience. Just treat it as a normal business trip and handle it according to the procedures and regulations. Okay? Having been together for so long, Huasai knew that Yi Shi was straightforward and wouldn't stab him in the back. Moreover, this business trip was indeed a rare opportunity, and he didn't want to miss it. So, after much deliberation, he agreed. The return trip was scheduled for a week later. Huasai was busy with work while packing his luggage. As the date of return drew closer, his mood became calmer. Looking back on the past, he felt like it was just a dream. Now that the dream was over, he was completely awake and would no longer dwell on the past. As for Jiang Xinyue, she had simply returned to square one, becoming just an old classmate. He had already thought about how to interact with her when they met again. Returning to this familiar city once again, Huasai's mindset had undergone a sea change. He pushed his luggage and walked out of the airport, chatting and laughing with Yi Shi. As they were talking, Yi Shi saw her parents and waved to them in the distance. She introduced Huasai to her parents, and the two elders strongly invited him to come home with them. Knowing that the family of three would have endless topics to discuss after reuniting, Huasai didn't want to interrupt their family reunion and politely declined. After temporarily parting ways, he pushed his luggage out of the airport alone and realized it was raining heavily outside. There were no cars on the road. He opened the ride-hailing app and was about to call for a car when a black car suddenly stopped in front of him. He subconsciously looked up and saw Jiang Xinyue walking over with an umbrella. He hadn't seen her for months, and she had lost a lot of weight, wearing a dark green trench coat, looking as slender as a bamboo pole. Huasai didn't expect her to appear and was momentarily stunned. She walked straight up to him, her eyes filled with complex emotions he couldn't understand, and said in a deep voice, "Long time no see, Sai. How have you been?" Huasai subconsciously took a few steps back, creating distance between them, and said in a faint tone, "Fine." This cold attitude made Jiang Xinyue a little disappointed, but she understood that everything was perfectly normal. After all, they were just a divorced couple. So she quickly adjusted her mindset and looked at the suitcase in his hand. The rain is too heavy. Shall I give you a ride back to the hotel? Seeing the notification on the screen that the order had been accepted, Huasai shook his head and declined her offer. No need. I've already hailed a car. Then take the umbrella, or the luggage will get soaked. Huasai didn't know why she was suddenly so attentive, and a strange feeling welled up in his heart. I don't need your help, and I don't think there's any need for us to have any contact. President Jiang, don't you think? These words, like a needle, pierced straight into Jiang Xinyue's heart. Her hand, hidden in her sleeve, trembled slightly, and her smile was somewhat forced. After a divorce, can't we even be friends? Huasai put his phone back in his pocket, took out an umbrella from his bag, and watched the car getting closer and closer. Before the divorce, we were just ordinary classmates. After the divorce, let's just go back to that time. You and I were never from the same world, so there's no need to be friends. Every word was devoid of any emotion. This time, Jiang Xinyue was stunned. She watched the driver help put his luggage in the trunk, watched him open the car door, watched him fold up the umbrella, and felt that something was gradually leaving her. She couldn't help but step forward and grab the car door that was about to close. In the rush of raindrops, her voice was particularly strong and clear. I don't think we're from different worlds. Sai, perhaps you've heard countless people pointing fingers at your background, discussing your choice to marry me, but I want to tell you, I've never looked down on you, and I've never had any thoughts that you weren't worthy of standing by my side. You just accepted everything you had and bravely pursued what you liked. There's no need to belittle yourself. Having lived alone for almost 10 years, it was the first time Huasai had heard someone say that. He turned his head to look at her, slightly curved his lips, and said a rare smiling word to her. Thank you. After putting his luggage in the hotel, the rain stopped. Huasai hurried to the restaurant with his bag and met Song Haochen. The two brothers hugged tightly and chatted about their recent situations. When Song Haochen heard that he had taken half of Jiang Xinyue's fortune, his mouth opened so wide that it could swallow a plate. He suddenly grabbed Huasai's shoulder, ignoring the strange looks from the crowd, and screamed incessantly. Ah! My brother is a tycoon now. Holy crap. If I hug your thigh now, will I not have to worry about the rest of my life? Huasai quickly covered his mouth, apologized to the customers who had been disturbed, and immediately took him to a private room. When there was no one around, Song Haochen looked around and whispered, Did the money arrive in your account? It did, but I don't dare to spend it. I have a feeling that unearned wealth will always be taken back. Song Haochen couldn't bear to hear such words, and taking his hand, he earnestly tried to enlighten him. What unearned wealth? This is your legitimate income. Since Jiang Xinyue is so generous, then you should just use it. What's there to be embarrassed about? It's not like you held a knife to her neck and forced her to marry you. That made sense. Song Haochen saw him slowly letting go of his worries, and he picked up the menu with a smile, didn't even look at it, and directly slapped it into the waiter's hand. Bring me the most expensive abalone and lobster you have. After showing off his wealth, he was satisfied and began to boast proudly. How did I do just now? Did I get the vibe? Huasai gave him 2 thumbs up, deliberately trying to tease him. Pretty handsome, but I wonder if he'll still be confident when the bill comes. See ye, aren't you treating me? Or should we split? After the feast, Song Haochen was completely satisfied. Ho Si watched his content expression and called over the waiter. Just as they were about to pay, a sarcastic voice suddenly came from behind. Well, if it isn't Ho Si. The two brothers looked up to see a group of people coming down from upstairs. Mostly classmates from university, they were clustered around Shan Xiujin, walking towards them. Seeing them, Song Haochen leaned close to Ho Si-ye's ear and whispered gossip. Si, the day after you left the country, the news about Shan Xiujin two-timing multiple girls spread like wildfire. It even trended online because so many people were involved. I heard Jiang Xinyu's friend spread it. His reputation was ruined after that. When he realized he couldn't contain it, he went back begging Jiang Xinu to take him back, but she completely ignored him. You should have seen his face when she rejected him. It was hilarious. Reaching their table, Shan Xiujin vaguely heard them discussing him, and his face darkened. He glared at Ho Si-yi, his tone filled with anger. Ho Si-yi, weren't you supposed to be abroad? Why are you back? That's none of your business. What you so smug about? Don't tell me you think now that you're back, you have a chance with Jiang Xinu? She never cared about you before, and she certainly won't now. Ho-Si didn't understand why he held such hostility towards him, especially since he was already divorced from Jiang Xinu. But he didn't want to argue with their group, so he paid the bill and pulled Song Haochen to leave. His dismissive attitude angered Shun Xiujin further, who blocked their path. You stole my wedding and got half of Jiang Xinu's fortune. You're just a calculating gold digger. Why put on airs in front of me? What good is that money anyway? Look at you. You can't hide how poor you really are. Don't contaminate my air. His followers laughed along with his remarks. An angered Song Haochen tried to confront them, but Ho-Si held him back. He looked at Shun Xiujin calmly and spoke softly. That money was given to me willingly by Jiang Xinu, just like those rumors you spread, all legitimate and true. With that, he ignored Shun Xiujin's reaction and pulled Song Haochen away. Stung by the comment, Shun Xiujin furiously pushed a passing waiter forward. Just as the hot soup was about to splash on a Ho-Si and Song Haochen, Jiang Xinu appeared. She shielded them both, and the sizzling soup drenched her entire left arm. Her exposed skin immediately broke out in countless blisters, and her face turned pale. Shun Xiujin hadn't expected her to appear and panicked, rushing forward to check her injuries. Jiang Xinu suppressed the burning pain and looked at him through gritted teeth, her gaze colder than ice. Out of respect for your parents, I never held you accountable for what you did. But if you continue to misbehave, I won't mind teaching you a lesson. Before Shun Xiujin could explain, Jiang Xinu left with the two shocked men. The cold night air cleared Ho-Si's head. Seeing her injured arm, he took the car keys from her pocket. They rushed to the hospital, where the nurse was startled by the extent of the burns and quickly called for a doctor. It was late, and Song Haochen had work tomorrow. After much persuasion from Ho-Si, he finally went home. Only 4 people remained in the emergency room. Huasai turned to look at Jiang Xinyu, who was desperately suppressing her pain. He pulled out 2 tissues and wiped away the beads of sweat hanging precariously on her forehead. She looked up, seeing the accumulation of guilt in his eyes, and comforted him in a trembling voice. My injury has nothing to do with you. It's because of me that he holds a grudge against you. I should be the one saying sorry. Huasai knew that in this situation, it was meaningless to argue about who was right and wrong. So he said nothing and went to get the medicine according to the prescription the doctor had given. By the time he returned, the wound had already been treated. The doctor gave many instructions before letting them leave. Huasai drove Jiang Xinyu back home. Returning to this villa again, looking at the layout of the living room, which was almost identical to how it had been before, a flicker of absent-mindedness crossed his eyes. The old butler saw him return and immediately greeted him with a beaming smile, chattering incessantly. Mr. Hua, you're finally back. Miss Jiang has been waiting for you all this time you were gone. Halfway through his words, the butler noticed the injured Jiang Xinyu and froze on the spot. Miss, what happened? You're hurt. Huasai pretended not to hear what the butler had said, handed over the medicine, reiterated the doctor's instructions, and turned to leave. Watching his receding back, Jiang Xinyu felt a hollowness in her heart. She wanted to ask him to stay, but the words caught in her throat. Jiang Xinyue's hesitant and disappointed appearance was noticed by the butler, who was beside himself with anxiety. Forgetting everything else, he quickly chased after Huasai and stopped him, pouring out all the words he hadn't had time to say. Mr. Hua, now that you're back, please don't leave again, okay? In these 3 months, besides work, Miss Jiang has been staring at the flowers you used to plant in her room, lost in thought. She dreams of you at night and talks about wanting you to come back. She flew to America every week to see you, but she was afraid of disturbing you and didn't dare to contact you. Huasai didn't know any of these things the butler was talking about. He thought she had completely let go and started a new life. His first reaction upon hearing these words was disbelief. Wasn't Jiang Xinyu only in love with Shun Xiujin? How could she do so many incomprehensible things for him, her ex-husband? So Huasai didn't take these words to heart and told the butler very seriously, Uncle Zhao, Jiang Xinyu and I are divorced. I've also put the past behind me. Anything that happens in the Jiang family has nothing to do with me. Please don't call me Mr. Hua anymore. Just call me Sai when we meet in the future. It's getting late. I'll go back now. Take care of yourself. After a short 2-day break, Huasai entered work mode. He followed Ishii to discuss the details of the cooperation, learning a lot of experience in the process. And the progress of the project was exceptionally smooth. Everything seemed to come naturally, without encountering any obstacles. When negotiating with the Jiang Corporation, Jiang Xingyue herself did not attend, only sending a vice president. Huasai breathed a slight sigh of relief and presented the contract he had prepared in advance. After reviewing the terms, the other party expressed a strong interest in cooperation but proposed a condition. During the term of the contract, the Jiang Corporation would designate Huasai as the coordinator responsible for communication between both parties. Yishi immediately guessed that this must be Jiang Xinyue's intention. She wanted to use this cooperation to keep Huasai. After thinking it over, Yishi decided to ask him for his opinion. So after leaving the Jiang Corporation, the two found a coffee shop to chat. Sai, although it's a bit presumptuous, if it's convenient, can you tell me about the beginning and end of your marriage with Jiang Xinyue? Huasai was silent for a moment, and finally he recounted the entire story from beginning to end. For years of classmates, 3 years of marriage, added up, it was almost a third of his life. But when he actually talked about it with others, it was light and fleeting, leaving no trace, as if he were telling someone else's story. The immense love that had once sustained Huasai through countless dark nights had ultimately been worn away by time. After listening, Yishi couldn't pull herself out of it for a long time. She didn't know what to say. Any words seemed pale and powerless at that moment. Only silence echoed repeatedly in the private room. Seeing her expression, full of heartache and regret, Huasai smiled gently, his tone carrying a sense of resignation after having experienced everything. Sister Shi, I know you have concerns in your heart. You want to secure this project, but you don't want me to be hurt. The reason I told you about these old stories that should have been sealed away is because I want to tell you that I've completely let go. No matter why they're making this request in my eyes, I'll just treat it as a job and complete it diligently. Although I don't have much experience, as long as you need me, as long as the team needs me, then I will work hard to complete it and won't let everyone down. Hearing his solemn promise, Yishi's eyes filled with tears. For her, this project was a make-or-break gamble, so she was sparing no effort to make this cooperation happen. And the most crucial element in all of this was Huasai himself. Although using him like this didn't sound good, her only way to achieve her goal was to leverage Jiang Xinyue's feelings for Huasai. Fortunately, Huasai understood her difficulties and was willing to help her. She couldn't express her gratitude enough, and it all finally turned into the sound of a clinking glass. At the end of April, Yi Shi, with 4 signed contracts in hand, prepared to fly back to San Francisco. Huasai went to the airport to see her off, and they hugged for a long time. Seeing the figure appearing not far away, Yishi finally couldn't help but ask, Sai, she's someone you've liked for 7 years, and now she also sees her own heart clearly. Are you really not planning to give her another chance? Huasai knew that Yishi meant well and hoped he could be happy. But only he himself could understand how difficult those 7 years had been before he completely moved on. If it was just unrequited love, it wouldn't have been so painful. He would have just been regretful. But after he grabbed the unattainable moon, thinking he had chased the light, only to discover it was just an illusion of catching the moon in the water, he would no longer yearn for the sky. Some things are only meant to be admired from afar. So he only answered one sentence. Sister Shi, life cannot be relived. We must all look forward. For work convenience, Huasai rented a top-floor apartment. The next day, a new household moved in across the hall. It was Jiang Xinyue. During that month in Jingbei, Huasai often ran into her in various places. Next to a supermarket shelf, at the entrance of a hot pot restaurant, in a corner of a park. With her status, it wasn't appropriate for her to appear in these places. Huasai knew that she had been following him. Occasionally, when they met face to face, they would exchange a few words like ordinary friends. Other times, she would silently follow behind, like a shadow. Slowly, Huasai, immersed in his own small world, got used to it and just treated it as if he got a free security guard without paying any money. After becoming neighbors, the opportunities to meet gradually increased, and the smile on Jiang Xinyue's face also became brighter and brighter. She would often take the initiative to invite him, asking if he wanted to take a walk together, have dinner together, or go on a trip together. Huasai would always find excuses to refuse. Every time she heard the word sorry, her eyes would dim a lot. He thought countless times that after this refusal, there would be no next time. But when they met again the next day, she would recover and greet him enthusiastically. Watching her eager and attentive demeanor, Huasai inexplicably recalled those days with Shun Xiujin when she was in university. It was just like now, afraid the other person would be angry and refuse, trying to please him in every possible way, to the point of neglecting herself. But he wasn't Shun Xiujin. He wouldn't take these kindnesses for granted, nor did he have the strange habit of teasing her to highlight his own charm. He just wanted to live each day well and enjoy life, nothing more. Time flowed by day, from spring to summer, and then to late autumn and early winter. This project that had lasted nearly a year was also coming to an end. The contract's deadline was exactly Huasai's 25th birthday. He booked a flight back to San Francisco for that day. The day before leaving, he packed his luggage until dawn and suddenly noticed it was snowing outside. When the hands of the clock pointed to 12, there was a knock on the door. He opened it to see Jiang Xinyue holding a cake. She was clearly smiling as she said happy birthday, but Huasai could detect a hint of sadness in her. He paused for a moment, then quickly regained his usual composure and thanked her politely. After the candles were lit, he clasped his hands together and made a wish. When he opened his eyes again, he saw Jiang Xinyue's eyes, which held a hint of expectation. "What did you wish for?" "The same as last year." The conversation ended abruptly. Jiang Xinyue remembered what happened on his birthday last year, and the smile on her lips slowly turned bitter. Huasai lowered his eyes, avoiding her gaze. The atmosphere became stagnant. After a long time, he heard Jiang Xinyue ask a very strange question. "Sai, what was the sentence you said to me when you dropped me off at home last year when you left? I didn't hear it clearly then. What was it?" Huasai actually couldn't remember either. Those memories, filled with damp and cold air, that were hard for him to recall, had actually been washed away and blurred by time. He only remembered the vivid, bright years. Those scenes that, when he thought of them, filled him with warmth, were still vivid in his mind. And as a new year approached, he hoped that everyone he would meet in the future and everything that would happen would be perfect. So he casually made up 2 sentences as a response. "I wish you happiness. And I wish myself happiness too." When he woke up, the outside was already a winter wonderland. It was still snowing. As soon as Huasai went downstairs, he saw Jiang Xinyue waiting by the roadside. She took the initiative to come over and try to take his luggage, her tone carrying an indescribable complexity. "It's hard to get a taxi in this heavy snow. Let me take you to the airport." This time, Huasai didn't refuse. He sensed that she probably still had something to say. This departure was truly without a return date. There were some things that he also wanted to put an end to. After the car started, it drove very slowly. Whether it was because the road was slippery in the snow, or Jiang Xinyue did it on purpose. But fortunately, there was plenty of time. So Huasai didn't say anything, quietly watching the scenery outside the window. Minute after minute passed. Jiang Xinyue finally couldn't stand the silent atmosphere of farewell. She wanted to say something to suppress her chaotic heart. She also wanted to use this to move him, to keep him by her side. "Sai, do you remember Christmas of our 2nd year of marriage? It was snowing heavily then, too. My mother wasn't feeling well. And when you took me to the temple to pray for blessings, I drew a marriage fortune slip that said, 'May I win the heart of one devoted soul.'" Listening to her description, Huasai also remembered that past event. After getting the slip, the fortune teller looked at the 2 of them and said something very strange. A predestined fate, a predestined calamity. If one awakens early, it's the best possible fortune. He didn't understand the meaning, thinking that the master was trying to enlighten him, and he worried about it for a long time afterward. After all, back then, he truly wanted to be with her forever. But now that he thinks about it, Jiang Xinyue was the one who drew the lot, and those words weren't meant for him. And the person she wanted to grow old with back then wasn't him either, was she? Thinking of this, Huasai chuckled softly. I don't really remember. Jiang Xingyue paused for a few seconds, then quickly found a new topic. Mostly, they were about the trivial daily routines of their married life, some of which he didn't even remember, but she spoke of them with great detail. Huasai didn't know that these past events had been repeatedly cherished by Jiang Xingyue over the past year, which was why she remembered them so clearly. She was trying to move him with these somewhat warm memories of their married life. But Huasai had no expression, seemingly not nostalgic for the past. Unknowingly, the car had already arrived at the airport. He was carrying his suitcase, about to leave, when Jiang Xingyue called out to him from behind. She took out a box and handed it to him, her eyes filled with eager anticipation. Huasai opened it and saw a pair of bracelets. He remembered that these were the bracelets that old Madame Jiang wore every day, said to be a Jiang family heirloom. Why was she giving him this? If this is a farewell gift, it's too precious. I can't accept it. After being rejected once again, Jiang Xingyue could barely manage a smile. Her throat choked up a few times, and a hint of urgency flashed across her face. Take it. This is my sincerity and my mother's wish too. Huasai gently shook his head, his tone indifferent. I understand what this gift represents, which is why I don't want to accept it. I've told you these words many times. Since the story is over, let's go back to our original positions. Each word deeply pierced Jiang Xingyue. She stood in the snow, watching him slowly walk away, step by step, without ever looking back. Only the snowflakes falling on his head came as promised, offering him a white head, a future with her that she desperately desired but could never have.